I guess I try not to get too excited by upcoming books or movies or whatever, and just allow them to be what they are when they happen, even though, I have favorite creators and so on. So when I see a book or whatever by somebody that, like Daniel Clowes, has a new book coming out, his first book in, I think since 2016, his last one was Patience, and that was the last thing I've read by him. So I was looking forward to it, but I tried to temper that with just like allowing it to be what it was and get it when I get my hands on a copy when I could and see what it is, and not come to it with predetermined expectations or whatever. So yeah, I think I've read all of his collected editions of all of his works, and one of these days I want to read through 8 Ball, which is the comic series that really, I think it contains a lot of the collected editions, but I think there's a lot of stuff in it that has never been collected elsewhere. So I would like to read that. And my overall though impression of him is that, yeah, he's an incredible cartoonist, a great storyteller, working in a lot of different styles and a lot of different voices, a lot of different just narrative techniques and levels of realism that really vary, which is something that I like. I've talked about this before, how the sort of standard definition of realism in fiction is that it's a much more bland idea of what I consider realism, which is something that incorporates fantastic elements because those are present in every existence in different ways. And even though they may not be as measurable or whatever as the more bland elements of life, they are still there, and that doesn't mean they don't exist. So I like his storytelling, and I like some of his books more than others. I think my favorite still at this point is David Boring, although I haven't read David Boring in so long. I really would like to reread it. So if that's in the collected 8 Ball, I don't know if that's where he first published it, but I would look forward to reading that. But just all his work, I would like to give a look again. So anyways, I did finally get my hands on Monica, this latest one, and I don't like spoilers, and I don't even like, and this video is gonna avoid spoilers. Maybe at the very end I'll indicate if there's gonna be a small sort of spoiler, but that's all I'll say about that. But I avoided spoilers with this book because I just like to approach things and see them as they are rather than a condensation of somebody else's perspective on it. So I avoided spoilers, and I did, unfortunately, or for whatever, I did see, like on Amazon or Goodreads, the a lot of people were giving it good ratings, which to me is a kind of spoiler because it still kind of indicates how people are perceiving something, and I kind of see that as I go into that as something that is influencing my perception of it. So I don't even like to look at those reviews, like they don't even use words. I don't even like stars. So, but I did see those, and yeah, so I did have some expectations of how this book would. This is like the longest. I've been like going for like 3 minutes about, and I haven't even talked about the book yet. So, anyways, let me get to the book. I had expectations, and I knew Dan Clowes' work, and so let me get the easy stuff out of the way first. The artwork is as great as ever. He's always a great artist, and I love his art. I love his lettering. I don't know if he does hand lettering or if it's his own font or what, but it's just really great to look at the work. He uses these great colors. I don't know if he does his own coloring, but the colors are just kind of this almost 1970s. Like if you picked up comics from the 1970s now and like opened it, the pages look kind of yellow and kind of faded, and it just gives it a really nice feel. I like the look of his work a lot. I think along with Chris Ware, he's one of the best designers of comics, not just the artist, but like, the actual look of the whole book is really there. It's a real nice package. And yeah, so artwork, beautiful and stuff. So let's get to the story, because this is where I have mixed feelings about it, and I'm still kind of processing it because I just finished it today. I started it yesterday and finished it today, and it's divided into maybe, I don't know, like 8 or 9 I don't remember, a certain number of sections that are each sort of standalone, but it's not so much that they stand alone, although they do in a sense, but it's more that they each have a different style. They're each a pastiche of something, I think, or maybe they're just a different style. But some are very clear pastiches of like war comics, maybe like Harvey Kurtzman, the first one. And there's one, I think, I don't know, I'm sure I could find this information online, but I got the impression, I was getting like the feel of like Nathaniel Hawthorne in one of them, like Young Goodman Brown, but I could be totally wrong. Anyways, the way that he does that though is what I was talking about in terms of realism and different styles. I think I really enjoy that. And it's kind of like a fragmented feel that I get with other like writers that I like a lot, like James Joyce. He does a lot in Ulysses. Thomas Pynchon, he has different levels of realism. And I think it's cool because it not only shows like your own perspective, but it shows like how different characters have different perspectives. And at first even though the book is called Monica and there is a character named Monica and it follows her, this is kind of a biography, but it goes off in a lot of different tangents and it has a lot of other characters. And even though it's only like about 100 pages, I think this is one of the most, in some sense it's very simple, but it also has some very complicated elements, a lot of characters and a lot of things going on that I would like to read it again. I feel like I haven't read a comic this complex in a while, that I feel like I need to read it again to fully comprehend it. And I mentioned Thomas Pynchon earlier because I see that as a very, I could be totally wrong, but I think he was pointing to Pinchin he even has a character referred to as V, which is a title of a Thomas Pynchon character. And I was thinking also about the short novel, The Crying of Lot 49, which is about a woman's quest to unravel a mystery, which is sort of what is happening in this graphic novel. This woman is kind of trying to discover her past and her parents and so on. It's a very, I would also say that like the first maybe 20 minutes I was reading it, I was not totally like on board with it. It's what I was talking about. Like I have expectations about what it's going to be. And like within those first 20 minutes, usually when I start a book, pretty quickly I can tell how I'm going to feel about the overall form of it. I may not like be able to anticipate all the surprises, but I can see the overall feel of the book and how I'm going to feel about it. So I think sometimes though I'm wrong, like I'm totally wrong. And I think with this book, that was the case. Like I wasn't really enjoying the first 20 minutes of it. I wasn't like clear what was happening. It didn't have the level of narrative focus that I expected or wanted. And, initially that kind of just like annoys me. And then I kind of stuck with it and I kept going. And then, like I said, I read it over 2 days. So I kind of had time to process it. And then I kind of just let myself go with it. And I started to enjoy it a lot more. And by the time I finished it, I did enjoy it quite a bit. And I think I would go back to that Pinchin comparison, because with his books, a lot of times the same thing happens. And I think that's what a good creative voice can do, is they'll give you not necessarily what you want, but what you need, or what is going to really allow you to grow as a reader or a partaker of that art. So by the time I was done with this, okay, and this is the quote unquote spoiler, and it's not a spoiler at all. I'm just saying that the ending. I'm not going to give any details of the ending. I'm just going to say the ending it's like kind of like a Zen koan in that like it made me, I don't know what it will make you, but it made me like kind of say like, what? And like, where did that come from? What and it made me like really think about it even more and look back on what had happened over the course of the book and make me want to reread it, like I said before. I think he took about 5 years working on this, and sometimes when you work on when a creator, especially with comics, where a lot of mainstream creators are working, 22 pages a month, and sorry, the dog's coughing in the background. That kind of creates one level of flow with time and the way that you perceive time. But when you work on a 100-page book over 5 years, that's like almost, if you average it out, I don't know if this is how it works, but if you average it out, that's days and days on each page. If you so you can really like focus on it and let it breathe and not rush it along, so that when you finally put it all together and read it, I mean, you could have read this in one sitting. You could read this in one sitting. So you're condensing the thoughts and the narrative process of somebody that took 5 years on something into like one afternoon. You could do that, and that's just a lot to unpack, I think, especially with this book. So yeah, it was a very interesting book. I would say it's one of his best. I still think David Boring is my favorite, and I want to reread that soon. But I think it's up there with David Boring. Like it's very good, and yeah, I recommend it. And I think it's a very provocative, confusing in a good way book, and at least initially. And I can recommend it. So I hope you'll check it out. And yeah, I think it's one of the best graphic novels I've read in a while. And like I said, it's not what I wanted initially, like what I kind of hoped for, but it's good because I think it shows that Daniel Clowes is still developing a lot as an artist and still pushing himself into new places and new territory. And yeah, so check it out. Monica by Daniel Clowes.